So the big question in this case is, can a prosecutor use a case that they are prosecuting in their literature where they're trying to raise money to be reelected to their position as a prosecutor? Now, I haven't read all the canons of ethics in Missouri, but it kind of strikes me as a little awkward and a little off, because it's I mean, sometimes they don't even talk about the ongoing cases, but to use it to raise money, and they're saying it's all politics, so the defense wants that prosecutor kicked off the case. Let's bring back in our think tank, Deborah Blum, taking a break. She'll be back with us, don't worry. All right, Brian, I'll start with you. I said I was going to throw you a changeup. I've never seen anything quite like this, an allegation like this, where a prosecutor in the middle of an election is using an ongoing case to help raise money for re-election. If that's true, is that a problem for this prosecutor?
Well, first thing we have to understand that anytime you have a district attorney, it's a political position. So everything's political. So there are always going to be cases ongoing. The public knows about it. So, it's going to be used, period, whether you get elected or not elected. Here, I don't know enough about the allegations of her specifically using this case. I know I read something about emails or something of that nature, but what exactly to raise money? What is it? Where's the source?
Well, it's an allegation being made by the defense, okay? The defense is saying in some campaign literature, they're referencing this case and using it in campaign literature that is being sent out to solicit donations to her campaign to get reelected. James, does it sound, if it's true, again, this is a big, I say big, if it's true, does that sound like it could be a problem for this prosecutor and a reason to have her bounced off the case?
Perhaps, but a lot of investigation would be required to determine if those allegations are true. It seems like a red herring here. There's no question that that lawyer was brandishing a weapon and his wife was brandishing an automatic pistol. And I understand there was a grand jury investigation that the couple altered the pistol at some point before it was produced, or I believe, I'm not sure all the facts on it, but the bottom line is they were inciting a potential riot by bringing their guns out. There's no evidence that they were being attacked. If they thought they were being attacked, they should have called the police. They didn't need to come out there and raise this issue. And the Second Amendment goes only so far, but this could have ended up like the young man killing two people. So they shouldn't be brandishing weapons. As a lawyer, there's a canon of ethics on how you behave, and that is certainly well below the requirements of how you behave as a lawyer in public and in your life.
Deborah Blum back with us. Deborah, let me ask you, if this is true, that the prosecutor, the sitting DA, is referencing an ongoing case to solicit donations to her campaign to attempt to get reelected to her position, should she be bounced off of the case?
Yes, absolutely. I think that if the DA is running based on this case or trying to get reelection, using this case as a platform in an inappropriate way, which based on what you just described, it sounds like, then I do think that the motion to have that person removed from the case actually should be granted. This case is very different from the last one that we just saw. I do think that the fact that it is their home in a state where they have the right to have weapons and to defend themselves is very different than where I live in New York State. We wouldn't have this fact pattern there. It wouldn't be a question. But here you have rioters coming to the home really within the close perimeter. So I think that the argument is a bit different than a 17-year-old boy that brandishes an AK-47 in the middle of a crowd when he's not the police and it's not his home and he went to a public place to probably with the intent to hurt somebody and maybe even kill them. I do think that this is different. I do understand that he's a lawyer, that they should know better. They could call the police, but I think there's more wiggle room here. You had wiggle room in the other case where he is smacked with whatever he was smacked with, and then he did defend himself. So there's always something that the defense could do, unless it's a complete loser of a case, which I don't think this one is.
Brian, let me ask you, let's get to the defense of this case and the prosecution of this case. The defense is alleging that threats were made. If someone is threatening to burn down your home or attack your house, can you stand outside and hold a weapon?
Well, that's what it's going to boil down to. This is something that Deborah said that stood out, and I'm glad you said it, because I can paint the picture of the defense and the prosecution. She called them rioters. So of course, if the picture is painted that they're rioters, it creates a different scenario, because now you can envision some folks looting and rioting in your house, and you can potentially defend yourself. However, if that's not the narrative, if they are peacefully protesting on a public highway, and they're going, and I know there's a question about whether they open the gate or whether it's open. Now the situation is different, because now you have protesters going through a public street, and you're on your private property, and on your private property you're brandishing a gun to a crowd. So I guess it depends on how it falls. If there were quote unquote threats being made saying I'm gonna burn your house down and this and that, and they're rioters, then maybe you have an argument. But if it's something opposite, those two attorneys have a big problem, because now you can potentially get prosecuted now, because it's like, these are,
It'll cost you your law license.
protests.
They might not be able to practice law, and they need to be practicing
Yeah.
law. Keep that huge house. James, let me ask you a question here. You mentioned before one of the charges, which is tampering with evidence. And this is a fascinating issue in the case, because the defense is alleging that the prosecution tampered with the evidence. And this gun was not operational that Patricia was holding, the handgun, they say was not operational. Prosecutors seize it. They allege that prosecutors dismantled it, put it back together, and made it operational. Meanwhile, prosecutors are saying, no, no, no. Before they handed it over, they made it so it wasn't operational. They tampered with it. How's that play? And how's a jury going to figure out which came first?
Well, we're going to have to talk to the prosecutors, investigators, and determine who received the gun itself and who witnessed it, and we'll get to the bottom of it that way. And there'll be a determination after you statementize several witnesses in the prosecution's office as to whether there was any tampering done to the gun. But the bottom line here is they shouldn't have been out there waving guns around. That's not what the Second Amendment allows you to do. I don't see any evidence that these people were rioting at all. Show me any evidence in the video that's out there that they're rioting, they're burning cars, they're doing anything dangerous. They're holding signs up, and they're exercising their right to free speech. That's all they're doing.
Deborah, if that free speech included, we're going to burn down your house. Is that enough?
Is that enough for them to come out with a gun?
Yeah.
Objection, Vinny. We don't know that. We don't know if they said that.
That's what they're going to allege. I'm telling you what they're going to allege based on interviews that the lawyer has given in the past. I've heard their statements. And I presume they're going to allege the same thing inside a courtroom. So I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm saying it's an allegation being made, not by the prosecution, but an allegation being made by the defense.
Well, it's rioters, protests, it's a matter of semantics.
Right, it is.
All right.
And I guess it's an argument if, somebody brandishes a gun toward me and I'm just walking around, I may be reacting to it saying, I'm going to burn your house down if you shoot me. I don't know. It just depends on how the chips fall.
Yeah, well, we shall see. I mean, both sides are making polar opposite allegations as to what exactly was happening there. We'll see how it plays out. We'll continue to track it here.